Hey darlings, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for being here. If you are new to my channel, please kindly click the subscribe button below and turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss any of my tutorials. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to make this simple blouse with flounce details, and it's a very simple one to make indeed. If you want to find out how to make this blouse, please make sure you watch to the end. Now for this tutorial, you'll be needing your basic bodice pattern, both the front and the back piece with your basic sleeve pattern. Now to start off, as you can see right here, I have a yellow line that runs all across this area, and this is to mark out the overlapping area of the blouse, and I'm going to explain to you how to measure it out. Now for this tutorial, the overlapping will be running from the armhole area. So the measurement I use from this point to this point is the same thing from this center front to my shoulder area. So you measure your pattern, note the measurement, and use it to mark out your overlapping allowance. And when you're done doing that, you place your pattern right on the center front line, which is at this yellow line I marked right there. So now I'm going to be modifying these basic bodies to suit into what I want, and I started off with extending the indication line, the bust, the waist, and the hip line. Now what I'm going to do right now is to add more inches to the side seam. I'm going to add 1 inch more to the side seam to create more room for my dress, since it's not a fitted blouse. So as you can see, the dart area is still there, and I'm going to take advantage of it also. Since this blouse is not going to have a dart, it's going to help create more volume for the blouse. Now to mark the underneath part of the dress, I measure the hip line. Then from there, I'm going to add about 3 more inches to whatever the hip measurement is to mark the base of this blouse to create more room at the base area of my blouse. Next, I'm going to connect the side seam together. So guys, if you're here to subscribe to my channel, please kindly click the subscribe button below, turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss any of our tutorials. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much for coming by. So guys, the next thing you're going to do is to trace out your armhole line and the shoulder line of your basic bodice pattern. And next you're going to keep your pattern aside, and we're going to continue with our modification. Now for clarity purpose, I'm going to be showing you where the neckline of this dress is going to be, but you can skip marking the neckline at this moment, but I'm just going to mark it now so that the pattern will be clearer for our beginners. Now I mark the neckline width at 4.5 inches. Then the depth I'm going to be marking at 4 inches. You can always change this measurement to suit your own taste. So now I'm going to be making it a basic round neckline. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to add my side seam allowance about 1/2 inch and connect it all together. So now after marking in your side seam allowance, you're going to go ahead and cut it out, and it should look something like this. And next you're going to be notching on this indication line right here to know where your center front starts. Next you're going to be folding in on that notch you made right there. So the next thing for you to do now is to retrace this shoulder line as well to mark on the other side of the overlapping allowance you created at the beginning of this pattern. So you're going to be marking this out, and I want the overlapping to measure down to about 6 inches down, measuring from the shoulder line down. And as you can see, as I place my tape on this area, I have about 6 inches. Yours can be more or less depending on what you want to achieve. So now that I've marked this, I now know where my overlapping will start, and I retrace it right from there and also along the shoulder line. So now I'm going to be marking the neckline again. So here is the main time to mark your neckline. I just did it before to avoid confusion for our beginners. So here I equally mark the same thing as I did at first, and I'm creating the round neck shape as I did at first. So now I'm going to cut this out. So guys, do you want to learn how to make this figure 8 6-piece skirt? a mermaid dress, so elegant and sweet. I enjoyed making the skirt. If you want to learn how to make a pattern and how to sew the skirt, make sure you check the description box below. I'll put the link right there. So now, after cutting out the neckline, I notched the center front to indicate the midpoint is very necessary. Then you mark out and cut off your shoulder area, and then I'm going to be opening this up for further modification. So guys, it all depends on you on how you want your overlapping mark to be. What I did was to mark my hip line, as you can see right there, and from this point down I marked 3 inches right there, and from there it became my indication point. Then from this 6 inches point I marked right here, I curved all the way, meeting the 3 inches down below the hip line to the side seam. So you make yours as you wish. It can be higher or it could be lower, or you can make a scallop curve right there. So now after cutting it out, this is how it looks like. And now we have our 2 pieces for the center, for the front piece, ready for sewing. So as you can see, I'm going to open it up. This is the first piece and the overlapping piece right here. So you determine which part will overlap which part. Now I want the right side to overlap the left side, so you choose your own preference. Now for the back piece, the first thing I did was to fold in my zipper allowance, since I'm not going to be adding zipper to this particular project. Now the next thing to determine is the length of the back piece, which I marked 3 inches longer than the front piece because I want it to have a tail at the back side of the dress. So the front piece was 35 inches full length, while the back is 38 inches. So I'm going to start off with marking out my indication lines, adding 1 inch to it as I did to the front piece, and I'm going to connect my side seams together. Next, I'm going to be marking out the armhole area and the shoulder line area as well. Next, I'm going to be setting this pattern aside so that we continue our modification. So as you can see, to measure out the full length of the back piece, remember our front piece is at 35 inches full length. You're going to be measuring this baseline to make sure it matches with what you have at the front piece of your skirt, your dress, and then as you can see it matches well, which is 13 inches as we have at the front side of the blouse. So now the next thing you're going to do is to create a curved line at the base, connecting it to the center back of your dress. Now the next thing is to add my side seam allowance. Then I'm going to connect it all together, and after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out the neckline area, and I'm going to be marking the width also at 4.5 inches as I did for the front piece, and then the depth I'm going to be marking it at 2 inches. Then I'm going to be creating a round neckline shape also for the back side of the dress. When you cut it out, you're going to have something like this. So next, I cut out my preferred sleeve. You can make a different shape or different style of sleeve you want to add, but for mine I chose a basic sleeve with a pleat at the shoulder line area, and I'll put the link to the tutorial in the description box below. Now starting from the 6 inches down below the shoulder line, I measured the rest out to determine where my flounce will start and stop. So with the measurement, I doubled it and I cut out a long strip of fabric with a pointed tip, a semi-pointed tip, and I cut it out like this because I want it to look like a flounce, but you can actually cut a flounce for this, and I have a tutorial on how to cut out a flounce, so I'll put the link in the description box below. I only did this because I haven't enough fabric for flounce. So the next thing I'm going to do is to use this bias to finish the tip of my frill. So now after doing that, I'm going to sew it onto this area that I measured by pleating it in bit by bit till I have everything incorporated and well knitted out like this. So now after doing it, you're supposed to have something like this or better. Now for the other side, which is the inner part of my blouse, I'm going to start from this area to finish off also with a bias tape. Next, I'm going to be placing the overlapping part on the left side of my front piece like this. So now after placing it, the next thing you're going to do right here is to stitch both pieces together at the neckline area, making sure that the notches match with each other, and also at the armhole line areas as well. Now after doing that, I used my bias to create detail also at the neckline area to finish off the neckline. And then for the back piece as well, the neckline was finished with the bias tape as well, and the underneath part of it. So now the next thing I did was to place both pieces together, right side to each other. And then the next thing is to sew the side seam together using the allowance you marked out at the beginning of this tutorial. Then after sewing the side seam together, this is what you have. And then the next thing I'm going to do now is to sew on my sleeves. Now, depending on the preferred sleeve you want to add to your dress, I chose a simple sleeve right here, and I also added the detail of the bias at the tip of the sleeve area and also at the center part of the sleeve. So I'm going to simply sew this onto my dress, and this project is done. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed watching it, and also check the link of the videos I showed you on this tutorial on the description box below, and I'll see you guys in my next tutorial. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to drop it on the comment section below. Stay safe and bye.